Hello, everyone. This is the banking and finance presentation. This is meant as a supplement to what was presented at the JETAASE and Consulate hosted Q&A session. I'm going to go into some more detail about some of what was talked about there. So let me start by sharing my desktop here. Okay, does everyone see the screen? Does everyone see the PowerPoint slide? Okay, all right. So my name is Yuli Huang, and I was the ALT in Yamanashi Ken from 2007 to 2010. My sister is currently a JET in Okinawa, and I've helped her through some of her initial, I guess, living in Japan and the finance and the budgeting. So let's go ahead and start. Okay. So first of all, it'd be a good idea to estimate your startup costs before you go to Japan. $3,000 is a safe number, but actually, in most circumstances, you don't even need that much. You will want to contact your predecessor and your contracting organization to get more details about what your living situation, living costs will be like. You can also negotiate and buy items from your predecessor, but keep in mind that it's not obligatory. You don't have to buy whatever your predecessor gives you, and this is going to be a matter between you and your predecessor. One thing to keep in mind when you're finding out about your living situation is that the devil's in the detail. There's lots of fees that you might just want to be sure that you know exactly what you're paying for. For example, if you're going to be renting a private apartment, you're going to have to pay for things such as a key money, a security deposit, an agent fee, a guarantor fee, and a maintenance fee. One thing to note is that usually your contracting organization will be your guarantor, so you won't need to pay that fee. But if it does pop up, that's something you want to talk with your contracting organization about. If there's anything you don't know or you're not sure about, do ask. Now, if there's an emergency, you can get an advance from your CO, or you can even borrow from your supervisor. For example, my sister was in a situation where she was in Japan and the debit card that she brought with her didn't work. So she actually borrowed a large amount of money from her supervisor and paid it back with her first paycheck. But it's something to keep in mind is that you're not completely screwed even if your debit card doesn't work and you don't have any money on you at all. One thing I do recommend is I think it's a good idea to bring a credit card with you to Japan if you have the means to handle the bill payments from online. That's because there's actually a lot of things in Japan where it's more convenient to use a credit card rather than cash. And I'll go into those details a little bit later. Budgeting. I don't know how many of you create budgets and keep track of your spending expenses, but I did do that when I was in Japan, and to me, it was very helpful just to kind of see like my money inflow and outflow. You don't want to create a budget. You want to think about things like how much are utilities, your rent, your necessary costs, and how much do you want to allocate towards non-necessary costs, like going out to eat or traveling. You would want to create an emergency fund. I recommend creating an emergency fund because you never really know what situation is going to pop up where you might need money. And it's a good idea to track your spending by creating a spreadsheet or some kind of tool that you use to track your spending. Excel has a lot of sample templates for budgeting spreadsheets. And there's also an online tool where you have to pay for it. It's called You Need a Budget. but it's highly recommended by a lot of people for tracking their expenses. If you are running into budget issues, then think about ways that you can cut spend meaningfully. That might be not going out as much, right? Or drinking less, or just buying less things on Amazon or at the Hyakuen store. Okay, so I have a whole list of cost-saving tips that I kind of brainstormed together with my sister. And we came up with these ways for you to save money in your everyday life while you're in Japan. So when it comes to food, you want to shop at supermarkets or market stalls or co-ops instead of convenience stores. Convenience stores are always going to be more expensive. And you also want to check your local supermarket if they have any sale days or discount days where you're going to get extra discounts off of certain items in the store. A lot of supermarkets offer point cards. I don't know if you know how point cards work. Essentially, it's a kind of a loyalty system where whatever you spend, the amount of money in that store, once you gain enough points, you can redeem it for something like, cash back on your next grocery bill. And, that's, it's really always nice to, get $5 off of your grocery bill. After certain times at night, a lot of departments will discount foods that were prepared. So usually it's between 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. before they close. I know a lot of people that kind of rearrange their lives to make sure that they arrive at the supermarket to get some of the discount prepared foods. One thing to keep in mind when you're shopping is that eating locally and cooking local foods is always cheaper. A lot of foods that we eat in America aren't actually going to be cheap in Japan, especially something like beef. Beef is a lot more expensive in Japan than it is in the States. If you stick to, for example, noodles or tofu or chicken, then it's going to be a lot easier on your grocery budget. If you work at elementary or junior high school, you can participate in the school lunches. Those are really, really cheap, and they're really fulfilling too. And you can always ask to take leftovers home. My sister does that with her elementary school, and she told me that she hasn't bought milk since September. Okay, more cost-saving tips. If you're driving, the cheapest car to own is a yellow plate car or a K car. That's because it's light, it uses less gas, the shotgun is less. When you're gassing up, gas receipts offer 5%, oh sorry, not 5%, 5 yen off per liter coupon for the next refill. So it's a good idea to keep your receipts. Also ask around for recommended insurance companies. Shotgun includes the most basic insurance, which is liability insurance. But I think that if you're going to be driving Japan, it's a good idea to get extra insurance. And you can ask around locally what insurance companies people go with, just to get an idea of who has the best rates in that area. If you're traveling, there are train fare discounts. There are regional JR passes. There's also a discount offered by JR. It's actually a discount ticket called the Seishun Juhachikipu, the Seishun 18 ticket, and it's valid for certain periods in the summer, and you can use it to travel on any JR train. There's also other discounts, like if you buy 11 round-trip tickets, you get one free, or discount ticket shops next to train stations when they sell train tickets at a small discount. In Japan, it's actually easier to travel by bus than by train. So if you're traveling, think about an overnight bus rather than taking the train. You can also use low-cost airlines like Spirit, United States. There's a lot of low-cost airlines in Japan like Skymark Airlines. Stay in capsule hotels, hostels, internet cafes, or chain hotels. And more cost-saving tips. So when it comes to internet and cell phone, the cheapest way to do this is to bring an unlocked GSM cell phone with international bands to Japan. That's because if you have an unlocked phone, you can use MVNOs, which are, I think they stand for Mobile Virtual Network Operators, which would be something like Cricket or Straight Talk. And there's actually a lot of MVNOs in Japan, and the pluses to using them is that they won't give you any hassle about using your unlocked phone. If you go to one of the big three carriers, they probably won't let you get on their plan without buying a phone from them. And also the data plans for MVNOs are much, much cheaper. The screenshot you see on here is actually the voice plus data plan for a local MVNO in Okinawa, and this is a very, 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 very good price. If there are internet and cell phone bundles, you can look into them. They're not offered by every carrier. Again, it's a good idea to ask around and see what other people are using. Or miscellaneous things here, you can use Skype and Google Hangouts and Line to contact friends and family to save money. You can shop at 100 yen stores or thrift stores. And if you're like me and you were living in public housing that was kind of old and had, leaks coming out, there were cracks in the windows. There's a couple of things you can do to save your gas and your electric bills, which is a lot of times you can just kind of like partition off your apartment using the sliding doors, and you have the AC, the AC unit in one room, and just keep that room cool. You can also seal cracks in windows and along the doorways, and this is particularly important in winter where it's going to be really, really, really cold, and there's going to be a lot of cold air blowing through the cracks in the windows, and you just want to seal that up. And instead of running the AC, you can even also consider like buying electric fans and running them to save on your electricity costs. Okay, taxes. So I am not a tax expert, and I make no disclaimers to the accuracy of this information, but I do my own taxes, and I have a decent idea of what you should keep in mind when you're doing your taxes. Before you leave Japan, you want to submit Form 8802. That's the application for United States residency certification. You will receive Form 6166, which you will then bring to Japan and give to your CO. This form is what allows you to be exempt from Japanese taxes your first and second year if you're an ALT. Once you're in Japan, you want to submit a Form 8822, which is a change of address, and that's if you don't have a U.S. address that you could use for the IRS to send you mailings. If you have, if you change your address to your parents' place, then it's not a problem. You would also want to submit 4868, which is an application for extension of time to file. You want to submit this because in order to be exempt from US income taxes, you need to fulfill the foreign presence test, and that means that you need to be at least 330 days out of the year out of the United States. The problem is that you arrive in July, so usually you won't be able to fulfill that requirement until June, which is past April filing date. However, if you do have US taxes that you need to pay, those must be paid by the April filing date. There is no extension for paying your US taxes. You want to look for your Gensen Choshu Hyo. This is your Japanese statement of earnings. You will need this form when you are filing your US taxes. One convenient thing is that you can file many forms electronically. Please go on the irs.gov site and see what kind of electronic filing options are available. Sending money home. So we talked about this at the presentation, Paul and I, and I'm just going to go into a little bit more detail about the options that are available. You can use the bank, but no one uses it, so I'm just going to move on. The bank, sending money through the bank is expensive and it actually takes a lot of time. This is not the recommended method. You can send money through the post office, and you could either do it as a koza ate sokin, which is you're sending a wire transfer, or you could use a jusho ate sokin, which is a money order, a postal money order. This requires a trip to the post office, and they have an English form that you can fill out, and you can even get printed copies after you fill out the form, so to reduce the hassle of filling out a form next time. The cost for that is 2,000 yen for the postal money order and 2,500 yen for the wire transfer, plus your receiving bank in the States might also charge fees for wire transfer. A really popular option is GoRemit by Shinsei Bank. And the way it works is that you would go to your Japanese bank and you would send a furikomi, which is a bank-to-bank transfer. It goes to Shinsei Bank. Shinsei Bank kind of sends that money through an intermediary bank, and then it goes to your home bank. To sign up for this, you will need to register, and when you're ready to send money, you need to make a trip to the bank to do the furikomi. The cost would be 2,000 yen plus the intermediary fee, which, as I recall, was around $18 for Citibank, and also your bank might charge a wire transfer fee. The last option is a Western Union, and you can send money at 7-Eleven, Family Mart, Circle K ATMs. This requires you to register in advance, and also you need to make a trip to the convenience store. A couple of things that are different about Western Union is that it works on a sliding scale. The fees work on a sliding scale, and you actually don't know the exchange rate before you send the money. And I've compiled a list of links and resources for more information in case you're interested. I will make this presentation available on the JETAASE website, so you guys can take a look at this later. Does anyone have any questions? And actually, let me see if I can open up my chat window. Give me a second. So, question, did you set up your bank account before you were in Japan or once you got over there? You set up your bank account once you arrive in Japan. Your supervisor will help you with that. You actually cannot sign up for a bank account before you arrive in Japan. Once you get into Japan and you meet your supervisor, that should be one of the first things that you're going to do. You're welcome. Does anyone have any other questions? Okay, question. One of the other Jets filed her 8802 and received a letter from the IRS telling her she needs to fill out more forms if her accounts exceed $10,000. Okay, so that's actually something else. So there's essentially what it is that if you have more than $10,000 in a foreign account, when you head back to the States, you need to file a notice with the Treasury Department that you have foreign holdings. This is actually not related to the IRS, and this is related to if you go back to Japan, if you go back to the States and you keep money in a Japanese bank account that has more than $10,000. Does that make sense? Yeah, this is actually not to the IRS. This is to the Department of Treasury. So it's not related to the IRS at all. Okay, so question. Is there a benefit to sending money home often, or can I let it build in my Japanese account and transfer it when I leave? You can definitely do that. A lot of people send money home at various intervals is because they have student loans to pay off and they need to get that money into their bank account so they could do the whole online payment with the student loan thing. Now, my sister, she has her student loans paid off, so she's not particularly, I guess, in a hurry to send money home, and she's just waiting for the exchange rate to be to her liking before she sends money home. Question, how long do the 8802 forms take generally? I would recommend that if you haven't done it yet, do it now. It's been a long while since I've done it, so I don't know how long it takes. But since it involves the government, I would say send it sooner rather than later. If you don't get it when you get back, hopefully when you fill out the form, you can have it sent to your parents' place so they can send it to you once it arrives. All right, so it guess says that it takes 1 to 3 weeks for him personally, 20 days, or her, sorry. Okay, does anyone else have any other questions? And to feel free to ask about anything. Okay, so Rachel commented that she sent hers by fax, and they said to check in 2 weeks for them to have received it in the files. I'll be honest, I don't really know what the IRS schedule is like. I know that there's actually there's been, I guess, they're hiring less people at the IRS, and so sometimes there are backlogs. If you haven't done it, get it done as fast as possible. You should be all right, barring any major complications. And yes, will this be posted somewhere? I will post a PowerPoint on the JETAASE website. I haven't really decided whether I want to post a recording up yet because I honestly don't like listening to myself. So I want to be reminded of that. Okay. Definitely do check out the links. They have more information and they'll go into detail about what I covered here. I would say that, it's honestly, the jet salary is a very good salary in Japan, because Japan has been suffering from deflation. The costs of living haven't really changed all that much. And a lot of people will be in subsidized housing. And that's, really, really, really convenient for saving money if you're only spending $100 in rent. But, even if you're not, um, living in Japan is actually pretty cheap. Eating out is not too expensive. Your rent is probably never going to be over $700 a month, even if you're living in one of the big cities. Train and bus travel, you can find discounts. There's ways to travel cheaply. So you can definitely have fun while you're on the JET program, uh, and pay off your student loans, and pay your living expenses, as long as you have fun in moderation. Yeah, budgeting. I'm the type of person who loves to budget, and so when I was in Japan, I did have it was a really, really primitive spreadsheet where I just tracked my costs, like, every month. Like, even when I was traveling, I like calculated how much I spent while I was traveling. Okay, all right. If there are no questions, yeah, notebook is good. I was actually also going to suggest, if you're the type of person that, like doesn't like holding a bunch of paper receipts, uh, when you get a receipt, take a picture, then you can toss the receipt, right? Because you have a record of it in your phone, and you can always go back in later and like put whatever information you need to do. Okay, question. This is off topic, but what gift did you give to your landlord? So actually, one of the things that people tell you is don't spend too much money buying omiyage. As was said by Steven in the Q&A, is that if you give something that's too expensive, they're not really going to know what to, it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable. So I actually lived in public housing, so there wasn't a landlord, and I did not. Um, I remember now. I didn't actually bring anything from the States to give to my landlord. What happened was is that my supervisor recommended giving a small item to the neighbors, and so we just bought like boxes of tissue and gave them to the residents. It's actually just kind of like a very small gesture. I know that other common things to give are, towels. That's actually really common for Japanese people just moving in to give. Um, Something else that you could do is, when I went to the tourism bureaus to get like souvenirs, I was actually given things like a little notepad, some pens, some stickers, some pins, and I actually just kind of like put them all together, make a little like I guess a souvenir bundle, and I handed that around to teachers at school. And you could also do that too. To if you're wanting to give something to the residents in your apartment. Oh, and if you're from Georgia, I was at Sam's Club the other day, and I saw they were selling Georgia peach cookies. I was like, oh, that would be great to bring to Japan and just hey, these are Georgia peach cookies. Yeah, but definitely don't spend too much money. I know that some people gave stuff like wine or whiskey, I guess if they were from Tennessee or Kentucky, but don't feel like you need to go all out. Honestly, it's the gesture that counts, not the monetary value of the gift. Okay. Question, how important is the presentation? Like, should they be nicely wrapped? Generally, the presentation is pretty important, but I guess if you've ever wrapped stuff before, you know how at a lot of the dollar store shops, they've got these cute little transparent bags that you could put things in, and then tie a little cute ribbon around it, and then it's kind of like an instant, oh, this looks nice, but it didn't take a lot of time to do. The dollar stores in Japan have that too. Yeah, I hate wrapping and I suck at it, so I would rather just put everything in the bag or something and then give them. And it's pretty cheap too, the plastic bags. And if you're giving cookies, that would work too. Like, if you brought a bag of cookies over there, you can put them into individual plastic bags and tie them up and then give them to people. Does anyone else have any other questions? Yeah. The dollar store here in the US is good. If you're looking, if you want to buy some stuff before you leave, Hyakuen stores in Japan are also really good. I know that my sister, she was going to Walmart and Target to buy like bulk stickers before going to Japan. A lot of stickers. Stickers in the U.S. are different than the stickers in Japan. She got a lot of, I guess, like sports stickers or Halloween, stickers, holiday stickers, and she used them to give them as prizes to her students. And they're cheap. You're welcome. I feel a little odd being the only one that's actually talking. Okay, if there are no more questions, I will conclude this presentation. Thank you for everyone for attending, and I will definitely at least post the slides up on the JETAASE website. Good luck, happy packing, and if you have any questions, just feel free to email us at jetaase@yahoo.com. Thanks, everyone.